Hello, my name is Gavin Routh, and I'm the product of an unstable home filled with drug addiction and neglect. And parents, I want you to know that every decision you make is going to help decide the future success of your children. According to the Institute of Family Studies, a child raised in a home with both parents in a cooperative relationship is going to be more likely to succeed at whatever career they choose to pursue than that of a child with no parents in the picture. These odds increase with every decision the parent makes to help form a stronger, more supportive, and stable environment for that child's life. As I previously mentioned, I was raised in, to say the least, a rough home. Whenever I was born, my mother took me. She and my father were not together. And for the first year of my life, I was living with a mother who was addicted to drugs and even let me be babysit by a person who was convicted of first-degree murder and had only been released from prison for about a month. After a year of living with her and a severe custody battle, my father gained ownership of me, custody. And for the first 3 to 5 years of my life that I was in my father's presence, he had me going to this Pentecostal church that we attended every Sunday, Sunday evening, and Wednesday night. However, during this time, to provide a stronger future, a home, and just different levels of success for our lives, my father was working a job that had him get up at 3 a.m. and come back home at 5 p.m. This basically meant that for the majority of time I was around my father, I didn't really get to talk to him. Basically, I only really got to see my father on Sundays when he was in his church persona or when he would get home, eat dinner, and go straight to sleep. This led to a feeling of loneliness in me because no one else was home. And at the time, I was homeschooled. So for most of my days, I would wake up alone and I'd usually go to sleep alone. This created an emotional dissonance in me, and I later discovered it also created this difficulty of to have intimacy, whether in a relationship or just a friendship, to have basic communications. After about 4 years of living with my father, he married this woman that he'd been after for almost his entire life. Unfortunately, that marriage did not end well, and my father gained a substance abuse addiction. And the marriage ended, and he pulled us out of church. From that point on, my father had mood swings. He would often lash out towards me for problems he created, and he would expect higher standards out of me. He would also oftentimes have friends over that also had drug addictions. And it created this feeling of fear within me that not only was I scared for my own well being, I felt the need at only 6 years old to be looking over my shoulder for my dad because I never knew where he was, when he would come home, or what he was doing when he was home because he often would not let me see him doing drugs, so he would lock the door. These 6 years created very strong issues within me. First off, whenever I was little and he was working all the time and I was alone, as I previously mentioned, that emotional dissonance followed me for the rest of my life. And when I mixed that in with the drug addiction and fear that he had, I now felt emotionally distant. I could not trust my father, and I felt alone while being in that position. This led to me becoming extremely independent. I can recall every teacher I had for the next 5 years after that constantly complimenting my vocabulary, my intelligence, and most of all, my maturity. Little did she know, or he know, that that was because of a survival that I had to learn for myself. How does this connect back to creating a stable environment for your children? Well, I believe it's obvious. Things like what I have mentioned have been an impact on my life in negative ways for the last 19 years of my life. I'm currently 20 years old and I am only now finding the help that I've needed for so long. However, I want you parents to know that this goes further than just the dramatic examples I've listed. It also applies to your communication with your child. I know somebody that I'm close to that is learning this lesson even now. For most of their child's life, they've provided a decent home. They've provided them with toys when they wanted. They've provided them with trips and financial support for joining different organizations. However, they missed a very crucial step, and that is intimacy with their child. They did not always listen to the needs and wants of their children. They did not always make time to just have time with their children. They would not always ensure that their child felt understood. And this led to some anger issues and rebellion in the child. And my friend, they wouldn't understand why until both me and them started researching psychology of children. And that's how I learned about some of the issues I was unconsciously dealing with, and they learned about some tips to help with theirs. And I want to provide some of those tips to you because of how detailed they are. First off, what does your child's room look like? When your child enters their room, do they feel safe in their room? And more than that, do they feel proud of their room? Being proud of their room is something very, very important. Does your child walk in and say, hey, my room is clean, I can bring friends over, show them off, show them what I have? And parents, are you simply learning about your child's interest in investing in that and also investing into your child's future in a way that they can see? Does your child know that you are truly in their corner for their whole lives? These tiny details, even down to the snacks that you buy them that they like, that consideration, is what's going to make or break a child's trust in you. Sure, they may trust you for the basics, but they're only going to trust you to the extent that you prove to be trustworthy. Do you listen? Do you pay attention? And do you support them? I want you to understand that these things are easy to accomplish. They take 5 minutes a day and just a heartbeat of thought. So I implore you, second guess yourself. Not to the point that it is destructive to you, but just to the point that you can be confident you are putting in the right effort for your children. I encourage you that most people do not have to go through what I've went through in my life, and that most people have a decent instinct to teach their children. So I want you to know you can be proud of what you've done as a parent. But just make sure your child is on the same level as you are. Thank you.